Good evening, open-minded mystics. This is the show you've been waiting for. Today's Monday, October 25th, and it is episode, I think it's 35. I should know. I made the slate, and I've already forgotten.
54?
Is it? Am I totally dyslexic? It's 53. This is what happens, okay? I have such focus issues. I apologize. All I want to know is, how are you doing, Tracy? You're in the middle of a storm where you are?
Oh, yes, I am doing really well, but there's a major lightning storm happening right before my eyes. So if I lose you all, it's just I'm coming right back. It's just we got hit with a crazy signal, but I'm very excited to be here. It's electric, literally all around me.
Woogie, woogie, woogie. Well, we are your open-minded mystics, and we are live right now on YouTube and on Facebook and on Twitch. If you're watching us on YouTube, or if you haven't hopped over there yet to see all of our amazing content, please do so. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share, because that's the most important thing. Sharing is caring. We are getting so close to our first group, which I am so excited about. Are you guys like totally pumped or what? We're going to have an interactive group, which you can join in, and I will show you the slate for that. It's coming up very soon. It is called the Open-Minded Mystics Present the Open-Minded Mystics Mastermind Group, which is OMG or OMG. And it's the fourth Monday of the month, $20 per session. Each session includes lecture, interactive workshop, and group discussion. You can Venmo Donna V at Salon Gossip with your email address to reserve your spot. Just make sure that you put your email in, because that's how you will get the link. It will be on a closed Zoom, and it will not be recorded. This will be basically, it is like if you've ever joined in one of Kim's women's groups, but this is a group it's open to everyone. There are definitely some rules, and, we'll share them again. I don't know if one of you ladies would like to share some of them, but whatever happens in Open-Minded Mystics stays in Open-Minded Mystics Mastermind Group. Honor the code and keep it in the group.
No names. We don't discuss things with others outside the group that were discussed in the group. That's really important, because we know that sometimes sharing experiences might be helpful in other situations, but we ask that you never use someone's name when sharing or borrowing a lesson. And here's the big one. We don't give advice, because we share our beliefs and experiences, and we don't should on you, which means we don't say you should. Yeah. So I think that's really important.
Right. Kim?
Yeah, and I've been teaching these things for a really long time. So what I want to bring into this group is an understanding of universal law and understanding of personal energy, which is something that I teach as well. And we want to make them applicable in life. So it's not just understanding law. It's how do I use law in my life? How do I understand how my energy works, and how can I become more efficient? How can I understand what's holding me back? And so we're going to shine a light on those things and support each other to be the best versions of themselves. And in order to do so, because we want to have a really safe space where everybody feels that they can be their authentic self, we're going to ask that the cameras are on. You can mute yourself unless you want to discuss something. And if you do want to discuss, it's kind of easier to raise your hand so that we're not all talking over each other, because we really want to respect who's ever talking. But most important, we just want it to be a place where we can bring our authentic selves, be truthful, and really learn and grow effectively. So how we do that is we leave our judgment at the door. It's really hard to be a human being and not to judge, but if you could just make a commitment when you come to our group that you're going to do your best to really love the other person instead of seeing them through a harsh light of judgment, because love is the language of our group. And I'm really excited because we have so many great topics. And the first topic, we're going to be really pre-paving the holidays. We're going to do it, right? Isn't that the
Yes, that is.
November, pre-paving the holidays.
Pre-paving the holidays.
Great. I say Chambrizé to that. That's
Chambrizé. Exactly. It's so funny. So guess who's here?
Too.
Yeah, Jerry Reese's here. Howdy, Jerry.
That's one thing I don't want to leave out, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have fun with the group. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be a fun, uplifting group. So I'm very excited about that.
Christine Cool's checking in. So excited to see so many people that we are familiar with and that we're excited to have tonight.
I love it.
Yeah, tonight we are going to talk about what is our responsibility in this world. So as light workers, I know that, we see it all the time, right? Somebody has something going on. We see it on Facebook. We talk about it on Instagram. Somebody's ill, somebody needs a prayer, what do we always say? We're going to send love and light. But
Right.
what does that actually mean, and can we extend it? So what is our responsibility in this world as light workers? In a world that seems so angry and intense these days, what's our response? Because I mean, I don't know about you ladies, but I've definitely felt it out in the world. And I've said this and I've shared this before. I think because so many people were home alone for so long that we have desensitized ourselves
Yes.
to being around other people, forgetting our manners, forgetting to say please, thank you, excuse me. But even more so when spending so much time on our own, some people go inward and they are introspective and they become a little bit more sensitive to others. And I don't know, with some people I've seen, I feel like they put the shell up around themselves, and it's been really challenging to communicate. Are you having the same kind of experiences?
Yes, definitely. I mean, we'll be talking about some of the things later on, but my personal experience is I'm commuting in and out of New York City, and I've worked in New York City for the past 7 years. And obviously, during COVID, I wasn't anywhere near the city at all. Now that I've come back to New York, I can say without a doubt it has changed tremendously in its feel. Like, you know how you get a vibration from everywhere that you go. It feels completely different, and there are so many things happening that it's I would equate it to like a Mad Max movie, no doubt. So, for instance, an example that I saw, women were fighting with each other physically on the street, grabbing each other's hair, punching. People were walking by them literally like within a shoulder's width and not stopping, not saying anything, not to. I also saw for the first time, and it was really upsetting. Obviously, there's a large homeless population in New York. There was a man, he was younger, he was probably in his like 20s to 30s. He was standing in a rain puddle in just shorts, washing himself. And I was like, and people just were walking right by like there was no one there. And I was like, this is bananas. Also, third thing that happened, it must have been a fire or some kind of drill was happening, and I was walking right by on Columbus Avenue, right by Trump Towers. This is why I was like, oh gosh, I hope nothing's happening because we're near Trump Tower and anything can happen nowadays. I'm not exaggerating when there were like 30 fire engines, police cars racing. I'm stopped in the middle of the street looking, and I'm looking around, and everyone else is just walking like nothing's happening. I was like, what is going on? So when you said desensitized, Donna, that is like the exact way that I feel in New York, that people are just in their little bubble and they're not even, I don't know how to describe it other than what I felt like I was in a movie. Like, does anybody else see what I'm seeing? I felt like I was in like Sixth Sense. Like, am I actually here? Because no one's reacting to these things that are happening and I don't know what to do. And I feel so helpless, but I know that I should be doing something.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I was thinking about Dolores Cannon and what she was saying about that, how the wave of volunteers and the second wave of volunteers, their job is just to be an energy vibration, right? Their job is to just hold light and hold light for space. But what is our responsibility? Because I have a couple stories in the other direction. I was on a train in Chicago, and a guy came on and he was clearly agitated. And it was scary, right? It was scary. And so everybody kind of moved away because it's almost like, I think with the women that were fighting, you don't want to get hurt, right? So I don't, what am I going to do? Go up and pull them apart like that? You don't want to get hurt. So what can we do? And this is a really good question. And I do think that's why we were like, what can we do? And I have a lot of ideas about what we can do, but, do you think it's a good idea to engage in that situation? I don't know if I could. I don't know if I'd have that kind of courage, with two people fighting to get involved. I certainly wouldn't want to get hit. But I get what you're saying. It is really easy to be like, what is going on in the world?
I think that growing up in a house where we were taught when you argued that the windows got closed, and when growing up so many people were raised very differently from each other, and it's mind your own business. And I'm not saying that I agree with that. I'm just saying I think that we are living in a world where we've heard it in the news before, we've talked about this in different topics, that people are taught to mind your own business. Like if a couple is fighting, you don't step in between them because you don't know the whole you don't know the context of what's happening. If a parent is reprimanding a child, now obviously if a child is being, abused or something horrific, you can call 911. You can say what you want to, call and try to get help. But that is a challenging situation. So what did you do when you passed the women that were fighting? Like, what did you do when you saw that go on?
So I called 911 because I was on the other side of the street. Like I literally, but I was watching as I'm walking up. You can hear the screaming, and I hear, and people are out with their phones, and that's, see, it's one thing to say, and I understand where you're coming from, Kim. I don't want to get involved because I don't want to get hurt. That's one thing, but to stand around and film it is something completely different. It's like a voyeur. Because of being a native New Yorker. So, yeah, exactly, Lauren. Right? But it is interesting because as a native New Yorker, it sounds like a typical day in the city. It is a typical day in the city. I am commuting in there several days a week. And unfortunately, it absolutely is a typical day. I have not felt, like I said, I've worked in the city for the past 7 years in New York, where I'm there 3 to 4 days a week. And I've never felt the hostility, the open hostility that I felt before. Now, New Yorkers are known for just saying their truth, meaning if you're in the way, they'll be like, get out of the way. But it's not a mean, like New York has a misrepresentation. I found that New Yorkers are some of the kindest people you'll ever meet. They're just very blunt, but they're very, like, if you stop and say, I'm lost, I need directions, they will absolutely help you. And they will ask if you want, do you need me to walk you there? And they might do it with a funny accent, right? Meaning like that heavy New York accent, but they're really deep down heart, before the pandemic.
Yeah, no, she's saying that she feels that there was arguing even before the pandemic.
Yes, there definitely was. But to the point of what it's like now, I've never seen it. I mean, it's like literally openly hostile, where people are just like, you can set them off doing the littlest thing. So that was a good question. Did I get him in the fight? No, I did not, for that very same reason. I was walking to work and I was already on a timeline, which I know we're all super too busy. B, there were people standing around filming it, and they were like, they knew the people obviously because they're yelling names. But I did have a situation that happened to me where there was a younger couple, and he was verbally screaming at the girl. They were obviously a couple. And then he hit her. And I don't know what happened to me. He was like 6'3". I stepped right in between the two of them. And I was like, you need to step back and you need to stop. You know what I mean? And I just said what I had to say. And then I pulled her over and I was like, are you okay? Are you okay? And she looked at me like she was in a zombie trance. She was so scared. And it was a horrible, horrible scenario to be in. But I felt so compelled. And I could have gotten so hurt. I do know that. And the friend that I was with was like, are you crazy? But I was like, I can't stand by and watch someone get beaten up who's defenseless. I can't do it. And I understand why people are afraid to get involved. But at the same time, we have some responsibility towards each other as human beings. And so what I wanted to talk about tonight was, what can we do safely to help each other and create a world where it's not a hostile world? Or what can we do to create pockets that don't seem hostile?
I have so much I want to say right now. Okay. So much. Okay. First place, it has to start, right? Like here. So everybody is an energy broadcast, right? So I've had this very weird thing where I've been in physical pain on and off, right? On and off physical pain. And it's kind of throwing me off my game. I always meditate my whole life, not my whole life, last couple, 20 years.
Last couple 20 years.
Yeah, twice a day. I've skipped days of meditating just because I can't focus, right? And I was in the car the other day and I gave someone the finger, right? Like and I'm like, who am I? Right? Like, who am I? Like, thank God none of my clients
not enough sleep.
It was your magic wand. Say it was your magic wand.
All right. And I was so enraged. And I'm like, wow. So the thing is, I think that we all, like, if we really believe in manifesting, right? If we really believe in energy and universal law, then we are we are creating a pollution, right? And our pollution can be for good or for bad, right? So our energy pollution sounds like the wrong word. We're creating an environment, right? So each one of us has to tend to our environment, right? That now I'm not saying we don't go out in the world and tend to other environments too or get involved, but I think that it really has to start with how even if you don't have a dime, right? Like how loving are you to those around you? How much do you spread light? How much are you really a light worker internally? I think that the next thing is that if you are really living a guided life, sometimes you are told call 911, and sometimes, Tracy, you jump in between. So I think the other thing is to start really listening to our intuition, because if you listen to Dolores Cannon, she's like basically saying there's two earths right now, right? There's two earths going on right now, and you decide kind of which one you're living one, and eventually they're kind of break up and divide. Who knows? I mean, in our lifetime, I don't know. Is it metaphorical? I don't know, but like what earth do you want to live on, right? So there's really two platforms all the time. And so when I was giving the person that lovely bird, I was deciding to live on the lower platform, right? I really was. And I knew it because I was enraged. And guess what? I didn't feel happy after I did it. It didn't make me feel better. It made me feel worse. And I was driving somewhere and I was like, who? This is not who I want to be. So when you have those little wake up calls, decide who you want to be. And I think that I was listening to Abraham Hicks, and she's like, you could live guided every moment of the day. And if you live guided every moment of the day, if you're supposed to get out and jump in between people, you can. But the other thing I think we really need to do, and as a mother of a son, right? There's a lot of stuff that happened this weekend, and my son happened to be home, and I actually had him hostage in the car for 2.5 hours, right? And he didn't want to talk about it. He's like, Mom, that doesn't happen in real. No, it does. So if you have a child, have these hard conversations. Like these are really hard, and it's not like it's the first time I've had these conversations, because he's always like, I wouldn't do that. I'm like, So I want to share a story that when my son was a young, he's going to be mortified, but when he was young, and when I was going through a divorce, he was going through a really hard time. He was 12, and his
Right.
best friend, so my son is very, very tall, and his best friend was not. His best friend's like, that's how boys grow. Some of them grow really fast, and some of them take longer, right? And so my son was a foot taller than his best friend. So he started making fun of him, right? He started making fun of him. And he thought it was funny. His best friend started having trouble sleeping at night, started having anxiety attacks. I had no idea this was going on. But thankfully, not his best friend's mother, because his best friend's mother felt bad and didn't want me to know, but his another friend's mom called me and said, did you know what your son is doing? And my son, when I told him he was bullying, he's like, I'm not bullying. He's my best friend. I love him. No, you're making it so that he's struggling in life. He can't sleep. He can't eat because of what you're saying. And I think that we have to have, parenting is really important. We have to be willing to go. And I thank that woman every day, that woman who had the courage to come to me and tell me what my son was doing, because my son was flabbergasted. He had no idea. So I think that it's when we start young, kids don't necessarily know when they think they're joking around because they see other people joking. And when he talks about it now, he feels bad because he didn't realize the impact that he was having on his friend. But we have to pay attention to the impact, and we have to be willing to, as light workers, voice our when we feel hurt, share with people what they're doing to us. So I think that we have another place that we really need to get better. And I know that in my life I strive for this, and I know that you do too, but it's something to consider. Am I being my authentic self? When someone hurts my feelings, am I honest about it? Right? We need to train each other how to behave. We're not trained how to behave. We're really not. We're not trained how to be happy. We're not trained how to be authentic. And I used to go to this man, my second metaphysical teacher. His name was David Michael in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And he said to me, we want you to be sweet and kind. We don't want you to be honest. We're trained to be nice, not honest. So I think it starts with honesty in the home, honesty among friends, honesty in our environments, about what's going on. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Oh, it makes
It
total
totally
sense.
does.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It
Yeah.
totally does. I just want to make a comment.
Mm.
October is, bullying awareness month. And one of the things that it links completely with what's going on now. When the kids were little and someone would make fun of, let's just say, Courtney, and she'd get in the car and she'd be really upset. I would try to enlighten them and say, unfortunately, not everyone gets out of the car with someone saying to them, I love you, have a great day. And there's something called the kick the dog theory, right? The kick the dog syndrome. And unfortunately, behavior is learned not just by words, but by, just a feeling and repeating behavior. So if a parent, let's just say, is having a struggle at work or financial struggle, and they take it out on the kids by being short with them, then the kids are going to go to school with that energy. And
Right.
anger has got so much energy, right? So if you pictured it visually, I mean, you could just see it like static. It's crazy, right? Like lightning. And then, but there's peace in the pause. And I've always tried to teach them to take a minute, think about it, and recognize, well, what must be going on if they're going to be that angry? Like,
Mhm.
what can we do to distinguish the anger that's happening? But not everybody is raised by a light worker, and
Yeah.
and I think that we have to remember that. We have to remember that bullying can produce little bullies. And sometimes, like, I can speak for myself, like, as a kid, I was made fun of for four eyes and braces and all the same things that a lot of people were made fun of. And you could either take that and you could take that energy and raise your kids to, like, you're not going to take anything and you're going to do this, that. And that's a really easy way to go for some people. And it's a lot lower energy, not saying better than, worse than, what have you. Sometimes that's all people know. Like, people that constantly eat junk food don't realize that they can go and eat something healthy just as easy. It's sometimes it's just what the low-lying fruit is. There's a few comments I just want to share before I switch this over to someone else. Christine Cool said, responsibility, yes. By doing nothing implies you condone the circumstances. And I will tell you, as a kid, that, let's start from a very beginning stage of hurt, and not even in the older ages where you see somebody fighting on the street, but kids fighting on a playground. One of the biggest aha moments I had was when they don't teach conflict resolution for these kids in school. They have a HIB law, it's called, when children fight, and I know that they have that in New Jersey. I don't know what the acronym stands for. I apologize. I didn't prepare myself for that, but
I know.
there is, it. Okay, so there's a HIB law.
Harassment, intimidation, and bullying.
Okay, so harassment, intimidation, and bullying. So I will tell you that Courtney was a part of something to do with that when she was in high school. It was horrific. And I called the school and I pled and I said, why can't we get these kids in a classroom together with a counselor? Why are we not teaching them conflict resolution instead of this watered down version of what will be one day? It's like a restraining order for kids. And they laughed. The counselor laughed. I'm making none of this up. And I was so disappointed because we're not, I could do whatever I can in my home, but when they don't see it somewhere else, and I'm going to use the analogy again of eating healthy. If I teach them to eat healthy and everywhere else they go is eating junk food, they're like, what am I missing? What's going on here? I don't understand. Like, why are we doing this at home and nowhere else? It's just, I know you deal with a lot of that with schools, Kim. So I know maybe you could speak to that, or I don't know, Trace, if you want to say something, but it's just, I don't understand. We need to do that as light workers. My answer is start at home, teach at home, but I don't know. I don't know if I would teach my children to step in front of, somebody that's doing something horrific, but I definitely would say call 911, and I would say try to get help.
Well, the one thing, and I'll let Kim speak to the school, but there's one thing that I've heard that has put it so succinctly for me and made me realize, like, oh my God, and it's a bumper sticker, but it's so true. It's hurt people.
Yeah.
And it's like when you sit and and just like take that in and then go, oh yeah, it's like very, very rarely, I would say probably 1% of 1% of someone's like a serial killer psycho. That's it, right? Where they have no basis of where they're coming from, but 99% of the population is doing something because they are hurt. not just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So, Kim, if you want to speak to the school.
Well,
because,
first
yeah.
place, so I have done some work in schools where I go in and I've taught some stuff, and it's amazing to me because the stuff I teach is so basic. Like I don't really teach like I teach like basic, like I brought it back so basic. So I call it mindfulness, right? And so many of the little tools that I teach, teachers are like writing them down, and they're like, oh my gosh, like just little tools. I teach simple. I probably taught 15 little tools that you guys all know. Like and they don't train they don't train the teachers in this. They don't. And we're not trained. We're not given tools to. And there's so many. The thing is, and then what shocks me is there's so many simple tools that we can give kids, and they are finally implementing social emotional learning in New Jersey schools. They are. It's becoming part of the curriculum. It is. I think it's the most important part of the curriculum, because really learning how to manage your emotions in social situations is probably more important than any learning math. I mean, I really, because honestly, and I think that's why shows like this are becoming so important, and why the internet is kind of blowing up with things like this. Because if you think about it, most people aren't really trained. Like so many of the tools that I teach, I'm shocked that people will say this is so simple. Why don't I wish I knew it? I wish I could tell you how many people will go through my course and be like, why do I not know this? And I'm
Can
like,
you
I
give
don't
an
know.
example, Kim, of just like one thing? It's just
Uh,
so we
the
have an
most
idea of what you're talking.
important thing that you can understand, and the most important thing I teach children, is that the thought is before a feeling, right? The feelings don't come out of midair. They don't come out of something that happens. So there is a feeling, there's an experience, something happens out there. There is the thought that you have about what's going on, and then there's the feeling. So there is a space between what happens. So we think that girl says that thing, right? She said that thing about me. So of course I'm going to feel bad, right? And I say, no, your feeling bad is a choice, because the thought is that person thinks I'm that. You could have someone say something terrible about you, and you could have a thought like, isn't it sad? They must feel really bad about themselves that they have to put me down to feel better. And aren't I so lucky that I came from a place where I learned how to feel good about myself, whether or not they feel that way? And then, do you hear the difference in those two thoughts? So someone says something to you, and then you have a feeling, and you've got to learn there is a space in there, and that space is called a thought. So when I taught that to teachers, all the teachers in the school were like, what a great idea. I never really thought it that way. To me, this is like so basic. How do we not know this? Like,
Okay.
But it isn't.
Kim, if you were my mom, I might know that. And people know that my mom watches,
Yes,
and I
I know what
absolutely
you're
love
saying.
her.
I agree. Yeah.
But she did not have the emotional intelligence when I was
Neither did my
growing
mom.
up.
I love her. Yeah.
So I want to say that I think that is amazing that the world is, we having this open conversation could educate parents. And
Right.
maybe instead of, the books that say like, what to expect when you're expecting, they should have books that we should be writing right now that say,
Maybe.
how to explain feelings and thoughts. But that is such an amazing, like for me at 49 years old, I could understand what you're saying.
Right.
And I might be able to, in a moment of a heated argument battle, but sometimes it takes a long time, and it's a knee-jerk reaction when people react. So again, taking it to the simplest level, a boy calling me Donna Vagisil when I was a kid because my last name is Vasels made a classroom of people laugh. And to me, I couldn't understand, like, why would someone do that? That's so mean. I would never do that to someone.
Right.
So when you can't imagine inflicting that kind of unnecessary, unwarranted pain, like why? As a fifth grader, fourth, fifth, sixth grader, it's really hard to wrap your head around that. I respect what you're saying, and I'm glad that you're teaching that in school, and it is great. But the aha moments are happening from what you've said, right? Just reiterating what you said with the teachers, and the teachers are our age because they're kids that grew up and they have these inner child conflicts because they probably were those people made fun of on the playground, which is why they grew up to be teachers.
Right. And the thing is that I'm not saying that this isn't groundbreaking. I'm just saying what a shame that we're not teaching this. Like
Absolutely,
everybody
I
should know this.
agreed.
And I'm very blessed because I went to light workers. I went to therapists too, because nothing against therapy. I love it. But you know, my parents took me everywhere because I was a disaster area. And so I got to meet people from all different realms of life. And the light workers are the one, not the therapists. Now they are teaching that now because therapists have gotten with the program. But the thought preceding the feeling, like not realizing that I could think a different thought, and that different thought can actually be just as true as the thought I'm thinking, and it could have a different feeling outcome, is so important to understand. And so I teach people, like, I train you how to think better thoughts, right? And so there's the way to do it. I call it the what thought feels better game, right? It's the what
Yeah.
thought feels better game. So these two things go really well. Well, I'm feeling this way, so that means I must be having a thought about this thing going on. And I have to tell you, it took me a long time with my own children to really explain this, because my son will often say, but this thing happened, Mom. This person did this. This teacher said this. Of course it's real. And it's really hard to explain. Well, what he'll say, he thinks I'm stupid. No, let's take it back. Let's step it back. What is the feeling that, so you have to examine it. So another thing to understand is you really got to examine your language. And neurologistic program is really interesting because we have the way we talk about things. If we listen to how people talk about things, we can really understand what they think. But going back, I think that we need to train thank you, Kelly. We need to train people we need to start this very young, because I don't think, I mean, like that, you know, that we're not trained to how to react in a situation where someone's beating someone up and we don't know what to do. And that's not a situation where you could say this is the right outcome.
Right.
That's a situation where you have to say, listen, let me teach you about inspiration. Right? Let's learn inspiration, but also let's learn about how do we create better communities. So I do think that the light workers are working on creating in less polluted communities, and these are the places where we can do it, where we can come together and say, I want to get better at this. And I think that what we could do also is let's start imagining a world where this stuff doesn't go on anymore. So we don't imagine the world where that doesn't go on, but we could imagine a world where people come together and help each other. Like,
Yeah.
just if everybody every morning just went, I'm going to live in a world where anybody who's hurting, there's just going to be immediate support there for that person. Where anybody's hurting, like if you could spend some time imagining that, that's a powerful way to imagine. We could wake up in the morning and say, what's the world I want to live in? Let me imagine that for a little while, instead of the world I don't. Because right now there's a lot about this world that we could look at and go, oh geez Louise, you know, especially with what's going on lately. And it's very loud. It's gotten very loud. Fear has gotten hugely loud, excuse my language, but it's gotten really big. But so is love, right? So it's gotten just as big. So we've got to figure out, how do we make love even louder? How do we turn to each other and say, wow, I don't really like what's going on? Because there's a lot of specifics in the news that have been going on right now that are really, really painful to think about. And I have a son in college, so something happened at the University of Delaware, and that was our whole conversation on the way home. And he kept saying, that didn't really happen, Mom. I'm like, yes, it did.
Oh God, yes, it
Really
did.
did
Yeah.
happen. He's like, I can't imagine, Mom. I just can't imagine that if someone was doing that my friends wouldn't have said anything. And I'm like, but it happened, and it happens, and you've got to know this happens, and talk to your friends about making sure. I said, you have a girlfriend, you have a sister, you have a mother. You've got to make sure that you protect the women in your life, just like the women have to protect the men. But like, he's a big boy, you protect the women. And so we have to have these conversations with our sons. We have to have these conversations, and we're not having them clearly. We're making them feel judged, because I know even my son was feeling very judged when I was having the conversation. He's like, why are you saying this? I don't do this. I'm like, but I don't know how to talk about it with you, so that to make sure that what do you think needs to happen? And he's like, he just couldn't believe it happened, because
Well,
in his world it doesn't.
And I
Right?
think it's important because I think what we're talking about at the University of Delaware, and we can go into it
Hmm.
of what happened, but
Hmm.
I think it's important that it's framed. You're not talking thinking that he would do it,
Right.
but what does he do if he sees it done in front of him by
Right.
somebody that didn't, to Donna's point, didn't have the parenting
Right.
to say this is how you deal with a situation without violence. So
Right.
in this scenario, it was a boyfriend and girlfriend having a fight, and it got physical, and it got very physical for 4 hours, and no one
Hmm.
stepped in to help the girl who was getting beaten up by her very own boyfriend in a house full of guys that were there.
Right.
And this was on a college campus. We've all been in scenarios, especially in college, because you're finding who you are. You don't know who you are really, and that time in your life is a time where you're testing boundaries. Everybody's doing it. Everyone's testing boundaries in different ways, and you are learning, meeting new people, meeting new friends. So you're having like a new friend group, and so it's a very vulnerable time. And I understand that it's vulnerable for everyone because it's like you have different expectations of who you want to be and who you are. But to that point, Kim, I think it's really important that you talk to your son about it. And I think it's
Yeah.
really valid that he said, but I wouldn't do that. And that's wonderful. And that's the kind of guys that we want to raise. But what would he do
Right.
if he was in the house when this guy's doing it? So that's what we want to talk about. You know what I
Right.
mean? That's what we want
Right.
is like, how do we address this in a way that says, we're not accusing you, to whomever we're speaking with. We're saying, are you prepared? Because just like anything else, Donna just went through a horrible scenario with her car being flooded, which is a scenario that we would be like, well, I didn't prepare for that because when would that ever happen? And then it actually happens, and you're like, oh my gosh, what would I actually do? And if you don't prepare yourself and it's like a hard thing, Kim, because it's the antithesis of what you're saying is like, okay, you want to imagine a world where that stuff doesn't happen, which would be great. But
Right.
at the same time, you need to prep yourself so that if God forbid something happens, you're not completely caught blind and not know what
Right.
to do.
And I do think that inspiration often does make you prep yourself. Like I think that if you're really paying attention to your inner guide and inner guidance, you do. It's not like your inner guidance is like, like that joke where the guy is the flood is
Yes,
happening and the
getting
boat
sent.
comes by and he goes no, and
Yeah.
then he's on the roof and the helicopter and all these different things and he goes up to heaven after he dies and he's like, I sent a boat, I sent a cop, I sent a this, I sent a that. Right.
Yeah.
So I think we are inspired to prepare ourselves for those things. But that being said, I do think that we live in a world where there is a lot of muggle energy or a lot of fearful energy or a lot of angry people, and we can't pretend we don't, even if we are, because they say it all the time. As much as I practice the law of attraction and do so much meditation, do so much stuff, I still can't think myself skinny, no matter how, because we live in a world where we just don't believe that, right? So you have to fight the world belief, right? I keep dropping this thing. I can't think myself not out of allergies, and I've been really working on it. I may get there, but like it's if you really believed in that you can create your environment, you create your world, you could create a world where you live in it and you're not affected by allergies for your physical body, right? But I think that's not the path of least resistance. The path of least resistance for me is like Zysol and Flonase, right? So that's just easier, right? So the path of least resistance is I have a flashlight by every bed. I have extra water in my downstairs, and I do have like battery backup battery things for our phones. I mean, that's the path of least resistance. So I do think sometimes the path of least resistance is you have to have these hard conversations because we do live in a world where we have to have hard conversations. And I will say this: I do think that this younger generation they're having more conversations
Definitely.
than we did. I think they are. Not all of them, but I definitely think at least I don't remember being concerned. I was such a mess though. Maybe like I might not be a great example of what world concern was, but I remember being in college and just trying to get through the day. I don't remember considering like social
Yes.
issues that much.
Yeah, when I was in college, it was like party time USA. I wasn't worried about anybody. I wasn't worried about like getting cornered by anyone. It was like, woo, everybody's having a great time and we're just having fun. Yes,
Right.
so it does
Yeah.
feel differently.
I think one of the reasons is because exactly what we're discussing is that each generation peels another level or another layer of like the onion back. You know, when our parents were young or grandparents were young, like I said, I grew up in a house where it was when we argued, if there was an argument, my grandparents would go around shutting all the windows on the first floor of the house because they would be mortified if anyone heard that we had discord in the house. That's not a joke. I grew up, you know, it's funny because I grew up in, you know, northern New Jersey and a very Italian area. I'm not 100% Italian, but I feel like I should have been because it was like the mob. It was like no names, no first names, no last. Like my kids make a joke and they're like, you know, if we went to the diner for dinner and we were discussing a day at school and they started to say, oh, so-and-so was, I'm like, oh, come up with a code name. You should have done that in the car. Like we're not discussing that right now.
Right.
And it's so true because it was, you don't want to rock the boat. You don't want to have a problem where you say someone's name and they overhear it, or their neighbor could be sitting right next to us. That just like totally stuck with me. But going back to all these different things, like we were talking about the college situation, and I know so many situations, and like my cousin said, you know, it's discussing that someone's mental health trauma has to become everyone else's social media sensation. Right. I agree with that. Like seriously, say a prayer for that person. I agree with that. But I'm going to hit this one. Like I said from the beginning, you know, also often we as light workers, I send love and light constantly all day long to so many people in floods, in different colors, because I know what green is for healing and white light is for, you know, healing. And but in reality, when you have to call 911, and let's use the situation of the flood, you know, Courtney, your dog is walking up the stairs. Here he comes. Here's my little light worker himself. Rusty's going to come on Open-Minded Mystics. So talk about a light worker. This dog has like saved me more than I can even explain to you. Come here, buddy. Come here. Come on. Say hello to everybody like Yogi. Come here. Come here. Come on. No. Okay, forget it. Get him. Just take him. Let's go. So, but the point that I was trying to make is that some people, I think that they record certain things. I'm not making excuses, but I could tell you from being in a car and calling 911 and having no one answer, my next thought was, I'm going to go live on Facebook, not to sensationalize it, but because I know I'll get help. Here he is. Come here. Say hello. And that is exactly how I got help. Come on.
And it was everybody,
and it worked.
Everybody was
now,
aware.
Whether some people go live on Facebook or if they're just recording it, maybe they're recording it to actually show to the police as evidence. I don't know.
George Floyd,
right?
The whole George Floyd, we wouldn't know about it if that girl hadn't had the courage to stand there and tape it. And I can't imagine how she did that. God bless her. But it was very important. Like I think that she taped the whole thing, and I think that she taped it because she wanted to make sure that it was recorded and it wasn't passed over.
Right.
You know, I mean, so that it wasn't glossed over and said it wasn't what it was. I mean, she taped that. I don't think she could have done any more than she could have because the police were right there.
Right.
What was she going to do?
Right.
You know, so I do think that sometimes just taping things is for proof.
Well,
yeah.
Again, because sometimes, I mean, we as light workers, we believe without seeing, and some people have to see to believe. So going back to like the night of the flood, there were people that I know that lived in the area that until I showed them the video of the actual parking lot, they were like, they were like, oh, I heard the people were stuck. I'm like, yeah, let me show you how stuck we were. And it was unbelievable. So I'm trying to keep it as safe of a topic because I really do believe that sometimes when speaking about things, we create them, and I don't want to bring it into my own existence. But I think that we do have a responsibility to, you know, to try to bring as much light into the world as we possibly can. I know for myself that joy has been a lot harder to maintain, even though I'll wake up with gratitude and I will meditate and I will try to be as positive as possible. It's kind of like when a helium balloon starts running out of helium because it's leaking out little by little. It needs a boost to kind of be lifted up again, or you have to cut the actual string off of it to get some of the weight to come back up. I think that's what's going on with a lot of people right now, is that I think we're really weighed down by a lot of stuff, and more so than we've been weighed down by in a very long time. And it just seems to keep coming and coming and coming. And there's no reprieve, where I feel that we used to be able to breathe a little bit in between. We used to have some time to take breaths before we were pushed back under the water. I think a lot of people are feeling the same way. And
Yeah,
I think we're all reacting to that.
Right. I think that's a brilliant analogy. I feel that whether or not how directly you were affected by COVID on any level, meaning family or physically or financially, or, there's so much that has been involved. Sarah's
I'm sorry. That is awesome.
that was hilarious. It was like, or you're the butt of a joke. No, but there's just so much that has gone on that people don't realize how much is actually weighing on them. Like, you think you've handled it, and it's almost like PTSD, where you just think you think you've dealt with it, and then it just keeps coming back up, but in different ways. So I think that's what it is. It's like it manifests itself in anger, and you don't feel like you're angry about it. And then something little sets you off, and you're like, whoa, where did that come from?
Well, it's interesting. When I talk about anger, I'm sorry, that anger is actually, I always say that anger is a gift, because it is the one energy that has emotion that has a lot of energy behind it. So it's a gift, because if you could use it, it will help you. You can catapult into love, like that. So I always talk about the two platforms of energy. One is fear and one is love. And the thing about anger, and I always say, like, when I'm angry, I think the angels are going, woohoo, she's gonna change, right? Like, she's gonna change. And then they're like, and often I'll just, unfortunately, it could catapult you really low into anger, more anger, rage, fear, or other stuff like that. But really, when you're angry, think up to yourself, wow, I've been given a gift, because I have the energy now to force myself into a better vibration, and to use this to, what do I really want? So the best question when you can ask yourself when you're angry is, what do I really want? Right. And when I gave the person the finger in the car the other day, I actually was so enraged. And that was the question. What am I doing here? Why am I? Well, who is this? This is not who. What do I really want? I don't want to be this person. I don't want to be this person. I don't want to go farther down. And because I was so angry, I noticed it. Right? When you're just like feeling general malaise, you may not notice it. When you're just feeling like, ho hum, but when you get angry, it's really hard to miss it. Right? Like, that's an emotion you see. So when you're angry, you're like, oh, crap. Right? Like, I gotta do something about this. And I've been given the energy to do it. And I have no excuse. I know too much. I mean, I've been doing this stuff for 30 years. I know too much. What do you want? I don't want to feel like this. Okay, well, how do you want to feel? That's the next question. How do you want to feel? I want to feel free. I want to feel empowered. I want to feel like I can drive and just get to work, or get to where I need to be, and just be safe. Right? Okay, well, then the next question you could ask yourself is, well, why am I going to get that? What would that feel like? Like, what would it feel like to be really free? These are the things that I teach people, and I walk people through, because the thing is that we can use our emotions and all of these things, because what we really want is, we want a peaceful world where people can get along. And so if we could just start envisioning it, and maybe I was thinking about this, maybe we should have a session where we just do some clearing, like everybody just, we do some like energy clearing, like where I walk people through how to clear every chakra.
That could be next week. That sounds pretty amazing.
Realign every chakra. And it doesn't have to be chakra if that sounds too woo-woo, but it's every theme of your life, right? Every theme of your life is represented energetically in your body. Every single theme that you can think of. The theme of security and survival, the theme of pleasure and creativity, the theme of responsibility and confidence, the theme of love, self-love and connection, the theme of authenticity, sharing and expression, the theme of vision and creation, and the theme of connection to that which is higher. That's really, you don't need to know that those were chakras and that I just walked you through them. You just need to know those are themes that every single person universally goes through. And how are you doing on each one? And the more you can connect to yourself, and the more that you can really lift yourself up in light, then you become a powerful light worker for those around you. And that's what we need. People who are willing to like let go. Me too. Let me not say people. For all of us to, when we're in this thing, if we really want to be of help and be of service, clean your stuff up, right? Like I know I'm always cleaning my stuff up. When my stuff is cleaner, then my environment is cleaner. My kids are healthier and happier. When my stuff is cleaner, I create an environment that my kids feel safe in so that their stuff can be cleaner. And you know what is really interesting is that I struggled so much when I was in school with doing my homework on time and being responsible. But I found as I got older, I got really better at those things. And my kids do their homework on time, and they're like, they go to class and stuff. And it's because I cleaned up my act with those things before they were born. And they do that. Like I keep looking at Life 360. Like my son actually called me. He's like, Mom, I don't feel like going to my 8 o'clock class. He's like an adult, right? He's like, I don't feel like, I'm tired. And I was like, is that okay? I said, no, go to your 8 o'clock class, right? And I'm laughing because I'm like, he didn't really have to call me. Like,
yeah, but he doesn't know that.
He doesn't know that. But you know what? I want to remind everybody, we have 10 minutes left, and all those themes that Kim just discussed are going to be topics for our groups. Again, if you weren't here in the very beginning, Open-Minded Mystics presents, this is new, we unveiled it last week. It's the Open-Minded Mystics Mastermind Group, and it's launching on the last Monday of November, the 27th. And we are pre-paving for the holiday season. And it doesn't mean that it's not about just like Christmas and New Year's and this and that. It's about like launching yourself into the season of, oh my goodness, we're getting to the end of the year. What do we want to reflect upon? What can we do to get ourselves ready, like clearing, like what Kim was just talking about, for the rest of the year and beyond. So it's $20 per session. Each session includes lecture, interactive workshop, and group discussion. Now it's going to be held on Zoom. So the nice thing about this is anyone that's really been enjoying our Monday night meetings, but typing in is a little bit, you feel disconnected, and we understand that. We've heard the cry. We've heard, we've talked about many times Kim's groups, and I know I was a part of her group for a long time, and what we accomplished was unbelievable. And now we're going to bring that interaction to everyone that's here that would like to participate. We are going to ask that your video is on. We will let you know that if you want to speak a lot or not a lot, it's up to you how you participate. But it's going to be interactive, and I'm really excited. So you can Venmo Donna V at Salon Gossip with your email address to reserve your spot. You'll be sent a link. That's why we're asking you to put your email address so we know where to send it. With that, you'll get a copy of the rules, which we read in the beginning. And also, this is what to expect. We're going to greet the group. Tracy, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, so we're going to greet the group. Donna and I are really excited to meet the members. So we're going to be the official greeters. As you know, we host and act as representative for the audience. And then Kim's going to begin with a lesson and facilitating an interactive workshop, which I just can't even wait for, because as she has shown in this, she's going to give us like literal tools, ladies and gentlemen, which is so exciting. You'll walk away with tangible things you can actually utilize in your life and remember those. And when you get in situations where you're like, I don't know what to do, you'll be like, what did Kim tell me? Oh, yes, I do know what to do. And then Kim, you talk about the next thing that happens, which is going to be great.
Then what after I do the workshop, so the workshop itself is going to be some food for thought. And then we're going to discuss it. We're going to open up the floor so that you could talk about what you're going through. You could express what you want to know. You could tell me where you're struggling. And Donna, Tracy, and I are going to facilitate the discussion. But this is going to be a discussion where everybody gets involved. Everybody can. Now, it's not about judgment. It's not about giving an opinion, but we could express our strengths. We could express how we did well. If you went through something that someone is struggling with, you could tell them how it worked for you. Or if I could share some tools if no one has any idea about how to go through it. But the goal is for everybody to come together and if you want to talk, you're going to be given an opportunity to talk. You're going to be given an opportunity to share, and we come together. And what's best is at the end, depending on how many people are there, right? After we've had this discussion, we're going to do a meditation, and that meditation is going to be personalized based on what you're going through or what you shared. So please come, like if you're coming to the group, be willing to share what's going on with you. Also, there may be someone or a few people in the group that have a lot going on. If you don't get an opportunity to share, pay attention to the other person. Try to connect with the other person, because I always say, if you don't get an opportunity to share, it's because someone up there, some universal energy knew that what someone else is sharing in the room is perfect for you to learn from. And then there'll always be another class, but but we'll always do our best. We'll always do our best to make sure that everybody gets their voice heard. And then at the end, we connect in light and we lift each other up, and we literally meditate for each other. Each one of us will. It's such a powerful way to meditate. It's my favorite part of the class.
I love your group meditations are amazing.
Right.
I used to wish that we had like a couch or a cot in the salon that I could have stayed on. I mean, I could have stayed there technically, but I would have had to ask everyone to leave like immediately and lock me in, because they are so relaxing. And one of the benefits to doing this on Zoom is you'll be doing it at home. So how cool is that you can end the night in a meditation? Now we think that it's going to be an hour, but it may be a little bit more than an hour, which is going to be exciting. So from 8 to 9 p.m. on that fourth Monday, I'm so talking about women's group. It used to be on Wednesdays. It was amazing, right? And it's great because we manifest things together, and it's just a goal-oriented group that is so just open and all-encompassing and no judgment, which is beautiful because right now, I mean, I think the world's judgy enough, and we're so quick to judge ourselves. And wouldn't it be nice to actually be in a uplifting place with people that are like-minded?
Yeah. And we've done, I'll tell you, I've done these groups a lot of times, and every time I've ever done a group, it's like, I always feel like it's like that book, The Places We Will Go, because like everybody goes and does whatever, it's so exciting to see what we put out there, what we create. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah. Tracy, any last words before we get the cards out?
Ooh, I would just say to people out there, this will be my first women's group or group. It's not just women, it's men and women, but it would be my first official group. I work with Kim one-on-one, and she's unbelievably amazing. And I'm just so excited for the adventure. I just as you say, the places we'll go. Can't wait to find out.
Oh, Nan's here. What's up?
Nan. Oh,
Nancy, Kelly Larkin says, what is it called? All right, I'm going to put it up again for you guys. It is called Open-Minded Mystics Present the Open-Minded Mystic Mastermind Group. So if you're on our other socials, let me just take this comment down so you can see it. You can check it out. It's on Facebook and it's on Instagram. And we'd love you to check out all of our information, and you can share, and you can also go over to which actually Nan's watching us from, and Kelly. Thank you so much. You guys are watching us from YouTube, which we love. We're trying to build up our viewership there. But all of the meetings that we'll be having, the groups, will be a private discussion, and will be on Zoom. And on that Monday night, we will not be, doing our open discussion group. But that's why you're going to have to join, because you don't want to miss out on it.
Yeah.
I mean, the meditation alone is pretty fantastic.
Yes.
I know.
So,
great mission.
All right.
I like the whole thing. I mean, I love
the whole thing too, but I can't wait to have another. I love that meditation.
Yeah.
So who's going first?
I'll go first.
All right. Look at Kim Mazzella.
I gotta come up with something. And stop.
Okay. Crème brûlée.
Please be good.
Did you just, as a light worker, just say please be good?
Will be the answer I wanted to be.
It totally will. Kelly Larkin just sent her Venmo. Thank you so much. We love it, Kelly. You're amazing. You're amazing. Here we go. Ready? And if you identify with the energy that Kim has been producing tonight, this card is for you as well. And it's balance. Now that you got that last week, you need balance.
I do. Well, you know what? I've been off because
I know
my
your shoulders are
shoulder
off,
and I'm in pain
and
a
you're
little bit.
emerging right out of that brace. Look at, it looks like she's holding her arm like, oh my God,
that
it's killing me.
That's wild.
That is wild. Okay,
I feel good about that.
Focus
Yeah,
will you on something that you want to know.
Okay.
I just said like Zsa Zsa Gabor style.
And that right there, right
Okay,
there.
okay, right there, right there. Look at her. Ready?
Yes, I am.
Listening.
Okay.
Somebody's listening to you.
I'm write it down. I need to listen, I think.
And support.
Okay.
All right.
I
You got
support
listening
you.
and
I'll send
support.
you
I mean, that's amazing. I felt like one card turned upside down, but
it did. Which was it? Do you know?
I don't know. I thought it flipped.
It totally did. I saw it. That's why I tried to stop it.
Wait. Spiritual growth.
Okay.
Ooh.
Okay.
There you go, girl. There you go, girl.
Yes.
Okay. Are we ready?
Mm-hmm.
So if you are identifying with the dog energy in the room, that'd be mine.
You feel rusty tonight.
Rusty has been amazing. And the rain here is coming down hard and heavy.
In sheep.
I hear it.
I don't hear it yet.
Send down the rain.
Well, my ears are like, stay home, stay home. Never go out again in the rain.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, anytime I hear rain, it's a flash.
Okay. Blame it on the rain. Trust. It's a good one. And self-acceptance. Nice.
Okay.
Ooh, that's pretty deep, guys. Trust.
We got some spiritual stuff tonight. We got some deep cards.
We did get some deep cards. I want to say thank you to everyone who's taken this time to stay with us for the hour. We really appreciate it. I mean, it really is an honor for us to be here with you on Monday nights from 8 till 9 o'clock. I'm really just so grateful. And everybody, just remember that go out and be kind and teach kindness to anyone that is willing to be open to accept the lesson. Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think to what we were saying tonight, it all starts with you. There's a lot of love and light in this world, and let people see yours. I think that's what's so important. When other people see it, they're not afraid to show their light. So be a pioneer in that way.
I love that. Be a peace pioneer.
Yeah. I love that.
I love
Writing
it
down. Peace
Write
pioneer.
it down.
That's a good t-shirt.
And I just want to mention one thing, that there is a lot of negativity in the world, but there is so much good. And if you could just speak of the good and think of the good too, just focus on that. Because remember that thing when the pink piece of paper with the dot that my therapist showed up, showed me a pink piece of paper with a dot. And he said, "What is this?" And I said, "It's a black dot." And he said, "No, it's a pink piece of paper with a little speck of it." So everything going in well right now is that big piece of paper, and just the dot is what we focus on. But that dot is not as big as all the stuff that's going right. So just try to remember that.
Thank you so much. No, I did that on purpose. Thank you so much, because sometimes we have to put the world on mute because the noise just gets too loud. So thank you so much for being here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. And we'll see you next Monday. And it's us, your open-minded mystics. Have a beautiful night. Be safe and be loved. Bye-bye.